incredible how many descriptions you can fit in a book, and I think this must hold the record. You kind of trip on their memories, which is like funny to me because it's kind of like, okay, so these are like drug dragons. I mean, there's like this salad. It's just words thrown in there, things that don't actually describe but seem to be atmospheric, but I need the dressing. Hello, how are you? I hope you're good. Today I am here with my December and January TBR, no, wrap up, that one. It's basically where I talk about the books that I have read, what they were about, what I thought, and what my star rating was for them. Now, I didn't really do the December one, and then January, like, I just feel like it makes sense to like put those together. Okay, so let's just get onto it. First thing that I have read in December was Radio Silence, which now seems like legitimately 3 years ago. Oh, technically it is a year ago. This is by Alice Oseman, who wrote the Heartstoppers. Okay, so Radio Silence is about a couple of last year high schoolers who are very much in the high achievers bar, and they are preparing to apply and continue on with university. This overall, I think, is a book about handling expectations, complicated family dynamics, sexuality, very importantly friendship. I do think this mainly addresses the perspective of you being expected to go to college, especially if you are doing quite well at school, and some families not really understanding that maybe that is not the path you want to take. I did actually really enjoy reading this. I flew through it and I did really enjoy the majority of it. I kept wanting to pick it back up. I was really invested in most of the characters, although I do think that the main character was less interesting than the side ones, which is not usually the best thing for me in a book because obviously we're reading from the main character's perspective. Although I realized that maybe it was done that way so you can insert yourself in the situation. I thought the main character was a little bit bland, and if I'm honest, I felt like she was going with the flow more so. She was very easily affected by other people, and her ideals swapped like 180, but without her getting there, more like just taking other people's perspectives and following it, which was one of the main flaws for me in this book because it felt like more of a sheep rather than thinking for yourself, like revolutionizing the way that it is against the system. Is pretty angsty. I will say it's pretty angsty, but I did really enjoy reading it. Overall, I gave it a low 4 stars. On Copilot it was 7.35. One of my favorite things about this book was the family dynamic in the, I think Aled, so bad with names, Aled's side story, although he's kind of a main character here. I do really appreciate that being brought up to life because it is very much filled with emotional abuse, which is hard to spot from the outside, where it sometimes looks like families are perfect. And this kind of shines the light onto that. So I did really enjoy it. I think it, up until, and I think the whole thing was fairly realistic, up until like the climax and the last bit of the book where it just went full on Hollywood and it really gave me like backlash. I did not enjoy that. That was so over dramatic and just felt rushed and really kind of not fitting for the whole rest of the setting. A really fun book, but one that also includes some LGBTQ plus rep. I don't want to specify because it's kind of like a reveal. Oh my god, I didn't even mention the Radio Silence is actually like kind of a YouTube run podcast. That is a big part of it here as well. The next thing was the very last comic in the December? True. Descender, which is sci-fi graphic novel or comic series. This is how it kind of looks like. It's really beautiful. There are 6 volumes, and the next one is going to be like a side story or like a new era story called Ascender, which I'm very excited to delve into in 2020. But this one in particular is about a world where people, or like humans and other races that are like bio based, and then there's also artificial intelligence, and they're kind of commingle. One day this planet is visited by these massive robotics in the sky and attacked, and we follow this little robot boy who was created to be a best friend to a young boy, and he wakes up a couple of years, or I don't remember how many years later, and to find that his family is gone, and he presumes that they're all dead, and he gets tracked by a lot of different people in different teams because his code actually matches the one that these giant robots had. But really heartwarming, and a lot of things happen fairly quickly, and I think you're not going to be bored with this, and the art is very beautiful, so I would definitely highly recommend, especially if you like sci-fi, and or if you just like comics and you haven't read sci-fi, this might be a good place to start. Although don't know if it's the easiest to follow, but it's definitely not the hardest to follow. The next up was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I don't think I need to say anything for it. Oh my god, I forgot. 5 stars. 5 stars for this one. 5 stars for this one too, but it's like a different thing. I can never actually rate Harry Potter, I'm too biased. But I read this chunker. I mainly listened to it. Next book that I read was The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is the third and final in the Folk of the Air series. And I actually really enjoyed it. I know there's like mixed opinions around this in the interwebs, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole series. It was a bit... I think they have this thing where it's a little bit hard to get into for the first like 50 pages, but they are all super short and things really pick up. This is like 300 pages. Things really pick up, and it's so easy to read, and it's so easy to just flow back into the world and get lost in this fairyland. I will agree with a lot of I will agree with a lot of other reviewers who said that this was just a little bit too short, because we obviously are very invested and we kind of feel like we slightly robbed of some like story bits that I wish were expanded upon. But overall, if you haven't heard, the series is about these Fae sisters, about these human sisters and one Fae sister, that this angry man comes into their homes and murders their parents in front of them and takes them over to the Faeland. He appears to be kind of like an ex-husband of the mother, and all the sisters is actually his child, and that is why he came to get them. As much as he is a cruel man, he's also a very honorable man. So he took the other sisters as well to take care of them, and they all grow up with this really weird relationship where the father is really caring for them and he really loves them, and they love him back despite the fact that he is technically the murderer of their own parents. So it even starts off pretty complicated, where actually I really enjoyed. This book did not try, or the series in a whole, did not try to make things that should be unacceptable acceptable. It just kind of, it was what it was, and I really enjoyed that. There was definitely problematic things if you would like actually live through it, but because they're supposed to be, like, this is a cruel Fae land. The humans are not really tolerated, they're seen as weak, they are so treated like weak, although Jude, our main sister, really does not want to be seen as weak, and she really wants to get power and get respect and not be bullied at school, and be prepared and actually gain a like valuable space and in the council. But she is very desperate for power and for proving herself, because that is the only language Fae kind of understand, like if you have to be a threat to be taken seriously. So she does try to go and get that, and she gets kind of meddled into more than she's asking for. And there's also a boy, and there's also this cruel prince, hence the first book name. You probably know, but this series is like famous for the the hate to love story. And I thought that the second book finishes on such a cliffhanger that I was really excited to get back to it. I got from this series what I wanted to get. It was short and fun and to the point and intense, and I really enjoyed it. I definitely see this not being for everyone, but I also think that this is a series that everyone will have some fun out of, even if it's not going to be their next new best ever series. I think it will always be a fun little fantasy series to get to when you don't want something too mass. Could have had a tiny bit more in places, but you know. But I also appreciate that it's short, so it's just like, it was quite like in the last one there was quite a lot of politic talks, so depends if you like that. I do, but I also like the hate to love trope, so I wish maybe there was a tiny bit less of the political stuff and just like a tiny bit more into the steamy bits. That may be just me. Another thing I read in December was Lady Mechanica Volume 1. This is a graphic novel about a girl who is part mechanical, and she stumbles upon this creature who appears to also be half mechanical, and then she tries to figure out how he got there because she hasn't met anyone else like herself before, and she's kind of known as this like vigilante almost around the places that she lives, but her mission was always to figure out how she got the way that she was, but before she gets anything useful out of the creature, it is killed. And then she goes basically on a hunt to figure out who's who and what is what, and the art is very beautiful. I gave it 3 stars because the art is very beautiful. The story seemed really interesting for the first half of the of this. It's actually pretty thick for a graphic novel, but comic, damn it, I always get it wrong. It kind of lost its purpose in the middle, I felt, and it was kind of hard to pick back up after a while, which is insane because it's a comic, but I felt like it needed a stronger kind of motive, you know, but I will definitely be continuing on to see how it was because I did enjoy it at the very end. I think it was the middle part, as it usually is with things, that just seemed like a bit neither here or there, but I did enjoy it overall, so it was very much a 3-star, and I will continue later, but as even of now, I don't really know what the point was of the whole thing. It was just kind of more about, it's like a CSI episode more than anything else. It was, you know, like a case to be solved, and then like she was there. The next thing, this is the one that I said like it barely counts because this is a little comic book of Strange Planet, which is literally little comics. But hey, I was desperate. I liked them on Instagram, and it was purple cover and it would fit my prompt. So you know what? I sat and read it, and it was great. I mean, I don't know. I think I gave it like 4 stars. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I mean, it was fun, but it's hard to rate these things. Moving into January, the first thing that I have finished was this. This is the second, I want to see the second, yeah, Tea Dragon comic. This is the Tea Dragon Festival. I really enjoyed the first one. It was just what I needed at that time. It's really cute. This is all about this universe where everyone's kind of kind to each other and everyone is understanding, and there's a really great place for introducing to kids to, you know, different sexualities and different disabilities and different everything, basically, you know, like everyone is valued. So it's beautiful for that. And the first one was really cute because obviously they have these little dragons that grow tea leaves, and then you make tea from their leaves. Like, you kind of trip on their memories, which is like funny to me because it's kind of like, okay, so these are like drug dragons. I actually gave the other one 5 stars, I think, because it was really enjoyable, or at least 4. This one I gave 3, and even then I feel like that's probably generous, but it's really beautiful. But I think the whole, like, it is really beautiful. So I appreciate the art and everything, but it was kind of, there was kind of no plot. There was a little bit of plot. There was this festival and they were going for it, and there was this sleeping giant that they woke up and they wanted to catch up with the times, and instead of kind of like the tea dragons, we have like a proper dragon that seems to be pretty like prejudiced against the small tea dragons. They're like calling them rats or pests. Anyway, it just felt odd and like circular and not really valuable to me, and it was just pointless for me, but nonetheless cute, and again, great for kids and stuff, you know. And then we got the Starless, a book that took me literally a month to get through. I still really love how it looks like, but unfortunately I did not love the book. How do I describe you what this book is about? So the Starless is about a boy who is studying gaming, which is amazing, at university, and I actually really enjoyed the university part of the book. And he really loves to read, he loves to hang out in a library, and he stumbles upon this really ancient looking book, and he opens it up and just reads a little bit of it and actually finds an excerpt of his memory. It's a scene where he finds this door painted and he wants to check out if it's a real door, but then stops himself because obviously it's not a real door, it's just a painting. So he's kind of creeped out, but not as much as you would expect, and he goes into trying to find out how is this possible, where is this book coming from, like who owned it, what is happening. And so it actually began really mysterious and fun, and I was excited to see if he finds it out, and everything just went downhill for me, unfortunately. There's also in every other chapter is also a short story that kind of weaves in together, like actually a collection of short stories that's kind of weaved in together later on in the book, but you follow like a couple of different storylines or just separate short stories in between Zachary's chapters. To begin with, I'm not the biggest fan of that because I like to be immersed in the story, and if it jumps back and forth, to me, like as soon as I get intrigued by the end of the chapter about this character, it pushes me into another story. And then I was like, oh damn it, I just wanted to read about the other one. And then I started reading the new story, and then I get to the back of that and I'm like now invested into the new story and not so much invested about the previous one. And then I'm back in the previous with like less of an interest, if that makes sense to you. So multiple POVs is never my best shot at liking a book, but it's not like automatically bad because there have been books that have been done beautifully. I just felt like this was all over the place. This is a very, very, very purple prose. It's the purpliest prose I've ever seen. This book should be purple. Incredible how many descriptions you can fit in a book, and I think this must hold the record. The whole thing is very much supposed to be like you insert yourself, I think, in the main character, because the main character was as bland as they come. There was like no character development. I was more invested in his mother than I was in him, and the mother, just to compare to you, like this is a 500-page like tome, and his mother had like 2 short chapters, and I was way more excited about her than him because I felt like I know nothing about him. And as hard as that sounds, if he died at any given point, I would not have blinked an eye, because I just felt no connection to this or any other character, which is, I think, the main down point for me. I read The Night Circus and I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars, so I was very excited about this. So with purple prose, to me, it's either a miss or a hit, and there's no middle. Like, and it's also such a thin line because I cringed so hard and I cringed so much with this. It just wasn't for me. I totally see how it was for some people. Like, I can totally see this being a favorite for so many, but it's just not for me. I felt the whole Owl King character to be entirely useless and just there to not even direct us or make us think about and make stuff up, but just there. I know people pointed out that I've seen Murphy mention that Erin Morgenstern writes like scenes and then weaves a book around it. You can definitely tell that here. I felt like those scenes did not properly connect this time around, and I felt so disconnected from the story. And one thing annoyed me so much. Oh, I wish I marked it because I actually underlined the entries, but I didn't mark the page. And this is a totally small thing, but when you're so like enraged by everything else being so over the top, that just was something that I noticed and I couldn't unnotice, is how many times she describes things as not what they are. 4 pages, literally like 6 times, or maybe even more, like every other paragraph there was that kind of, you can see underlined bits here, so I'll just read you a couple. And it's not even the page that I was looking for, but out from the pile of rocks that is not a pile of rocks at all, real one from the looks of it, not one carved from stone. The skull beneath his fingers is not carved from ivory or marble. This body is not wrapped in memories. And things like something large is moving nearby, behind him and now beside him. And like there was a lot of things that was like, there's a shadow near him, or there's a shadow behind him, next to him, yesterday, tomorrow, that is not made of darkness, that is not made of dust. You get what I mean. There's a lot of this kind of word salad. It's a lot of word salad with no dressing, if you know what I mean. There's like this salad. It's just words thrown in there, things that don't actually describe but seem to be atmospheric. But I need the dressing. I need the dressing to weave it all together, to make like, to have flavor, rather than just like chew the bland leaves and be like, this is quite nice, but it makes no sense, or it doesn't add up, it doesn't like go together. I don't know what I'm talking about, salads, I'm kind of hungry. That being said, there also have been plenty of bits that were really beautiful. One book this is definitely, it's atmospheric. It just was too much for me. It was too much of that and not enough of actual plot or intrigue or suspense. The romance was, and I felt the romance was entirely laxum. It was just said to be there from like, I don't want to say because spoiler, but there was nothing shown. It was just said that these people are lovers or in love and like meant to be, but there was nothing on the page for us to actually get involved, which basically sums up the whole story for me. It started off so promising and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be 5 stars, and I think it would have done much better as a short story for me personally, but for those who loved it, I can see this being a masterpiece. For me, it was just so far from it, but it did get 2 stars, not 1, so hey. Fine. Okay, and this, sorry, so that was long. Anyway, the last bit that I want to talk about to you is The Test, which is by Sylvia Noel, who wrote The Themis Files, one of my favorite sci-fi trilogy. I really enjoyed it. And this is like a short novella, although it's kind of classed as a book. This family that lives in UK and now need to take a citizenship test to pass to stay in the UK, which I think is very much a commentary on the Brexit and what's happening. But in the middle of this test, an armed man comes in with a team and then swarms everyone and takes people hostage and kind of picks on our main character. There are some twists to the story that I'm obviously not going to mention. It's a very short story, so you like get introduced to the first like plot twist in like 35 pages or something. What I loved the most about this were 2 things. First of all, the atmosphere. Oh my god, you could sense the psychopathy of this armed man, and you can sense the stress, and it's a very anxious book. If you are having a very anxious day, this might not be the best read, but it is so atmospheric. You can feel the tension in every scene and it just doesn't calm down until it does. And even then, because of the ending, which is my number 2, well, my second point, the ending I loved so much because it was the conclusion. I think is pretty on the nose, and I don't think it's anything original per se, but I really enjoyed the kind of the takeaway message of this, because you take this amazing man, you put it through something like that, and what's left over is read it. It was great. As I said, it wasn't something like extremely novel or anything, and if you read a lot of things like that, you probably have seen this scenario, but I haven't read that many things like that, so if you have something similar in mind, do comment down below, because I clearly like that kind of stuff. So I gave this 4 stars too. Now, I have finished something that I've started in November actually, in February, but I'll leave it to the next wrap up because I might not have enough things to talk about there, and I'm pretty sure I have talked about stuff here enough, and my editing self is gonna hate how much I talked about a couple of things. But hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have read any of the books that I've talked about. Obviously, don't be mad if your opinion that varies from mine, but let me know, and let me know if you do agree with me, and let's chat about these books if you have read them, obviously without spoilers. So yeah, thank you guys so much. As always, a special thank you to my Patreons. Thank you so much for being you. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!